Hello, greetings, everyone. Oh my goodness. I usually go live on Thursdays and I changed it to today because I'm traveling and then I forgot. Let me see. Do I need to turn that light on? So I don't know. Everyone probably left already. But ah, yeah, and I was replying to video comments. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so I got the day wrong. So now probably no one's going to come because everyone came and left. And so I just thought I'd come out here to say, hey, I'm gonna, uh-oh, I got two things going. All right, I won't turn that on. So, there's 100 people here. So I guess, I guess a few people are coming back. It's Wednesday. I usually go live on Thursdays. It's Wednesday, February 11th. Thanks for joining me. I'm traveling tomorrow to go to a powwow, and I wasn't sure if I'd have access to be able to go live from my hotel. So I said, "Oh, I'll go live a day early." So welcome everybody who's still here. Yeah, this person was right. Swervin' Irvin. I just spaced because Wednesday's not my live day. See, I'm a creature of habit. But hey, now that I'm here, I wanted to chat a little bit about some of the things I've been posting about, and so I've been posting about the big picture, right? And about what all of this means. And I kind of want to talk too about just what we're dealing with in terms of having to get all of this information that keeps coming out every day about the files, and just how horrific it is. And then what's even worse, of course, is the lack of justice, right? And anyone who's ever been the victim of a crime knows that it's bad enough to be the victim of a crime, but then to receive no justice, it just makes it so much worse. And another part of that is to receive no acknowledgement of what you went through. That's also challenging. And so this is what a lot of people are dealing with. And this is also what a lot of people are being triggered by, because there are a lot of survivors in the United States, and a lot of survivors throughout the world. But a lot of the people who are kind of really keyed in to the files in the U.S. and the lack of justice are, Americans. At least in other countries, they're doing something, right? So there are a lot of front page news stories about this in other countries. There are investigations that are being opened. I had a list. Do I have the list handy? I don't have the list right here. But like France, Spain, Norway, Lithuania, Turkey. Someone put in the comments who else. They're all opening up investigations against India. Oh, India. People are in the streets today, like in a big, big way. The young people are out in the streets because one of their, I think, former prime ministers was in the files. Yeah, and so so for I want us to stop for a moment and focus on the positive, because that's what I'm always encouraging people to do. Is someone said there's 12. So there's about 12 countries now investigating, and among these investigations are included investigations of Starboy, right, our satellite person who finagled our joust. Well, there are people in other countries who were like, hey, he finagled our joust as well. And then some of the investigations have to do with the files and Starboy. Some of them have to do with fraud. Some of them have to do with child corn, related to Grok, right? His AI, which is now producing child porn. Um, and anyway, let's focus on that for a minute, because this is very good news. I think that it's sometimes easy to be kind of stuck in the horrible and angry about what's not being done. And then when we're in the midst of that legitimate anger about what's not being done, we sometimes overlook what is being done. And so I want to talk a little bit about what is being done. So there are investigations being opened around the world. There's front page news around the world talking about these files. And keep in mind, this has been going on for a very, very long time. There were numerous women who came forward who tried to get investigations started in the United States. There was a major, I think it was a grand jury indictment of Epi, which listed all of these testimonies of all of these survivors. And, there was Sasha Riley, there was Virginia, right? There were all of these people coming forward for years and nothing was happening, right? Stuff is now happening, right? And so we got to focus on that. We got to focus on the fact that this is front page news in a lot of countries. Yeah, it's not front page news here in a lot of papers, but that's because we don't have a free press. We gotta always keep that in mind. It's hard to keep it in mind because it just happened, right? Like if you've been on this planet for several decades and the rest of your life, we had a free press. You might still be looking to mainstream media to talk about things, to give stories legitimacy, right? That's what we look for. Is it in the press? Where are the articles, right? Where are the well-researched journalistic essays? Well, there are some out there. So I just saw one in the New York Times today. There are some out there. It's just not what we used to have when things used to be thoroughly investigated in multiple papers throughout the country. We don't have that anymore because many of these press agencies have been bought out or cowed and are now afraid to write anything that's critical of the circus, which means we don't have a free press. But there are some articles out there, you just got to look for them. Now, but it is being covered in lots of other places, and there are lots of investigations. I just heard today that King Charles is just agreed to a criminal investigation of his brother. That's his brother, right, Andrew? So because people were saying, oh yeah, people are getting fired, we don't care about or losing their titles. Lord so-and-so lost his title and his position. It's like, we don't care about that. We want, right, indictment. We want criminal prosecution. But that's starting to happen too. And in India, they're going old school street justice style. They're like into the streets demanding justice. And so let's focus on some of that good news. And also, we had the really shameful testimony today in front of Congress of a certain Blondie apologist for PDF files. And there's been a backlash from her own party. So that is also progress. And I know it's pathetic that we're at this point and we have to be celebrating the fact that there are people in a different political party who are finally saying, hey, we don't really want to support PDF, right? Like, it's pathetic. I know it's pathetic. We still have to celebrate the wins. Win is a win. They're turning against her, right? So that's good. So the powwow I'm going to is in San Francisco. So it's not that far, but the flight I got is taking me hours to get there. So it feels far because of the flight I got. Okay. And so I also I had some other good news I wanted to share. And I know that people have a lot of questions about what I posted, was it yesterday, about the terms of mid. And so I know I have to address that. Um, so Representative Ted Lieu today asked for Blondie's resignation on live TV. People are getting bolder. Our leaders are getting bolder. They're speaking out more, right? They're and this is exciting. There was an article in the New York Times today about the EPI hidden files. I mean, it's not hidden files, hidden cameras. And why is that important? Because we know from Virginia Giuffre's book, and we know from the manifest for the files that shows a list of what was in the files that we don't have access to yet, that this guy was videotaping everybody. And we also know, remember there was a New York Times article about a month ago that Rosie covered about all the blackmail and extortion, right? So we know that there was a lot of blackmail and extortion. What was it based on? Him videotaping people engaged in criminal acts with children and sometimes women who were not there by their own consent, right? So essay and all kinds of things. We're not even going to get into all that because I don't like to go into details because it can be traumatizing for people. But anyway, let's just say criminal acts. So he would videotape people, powerful men predominantly, and I don't know that there may have been women too, but it was predominantly men, powerful men engaged in criminal acts. And then he would use that footage to blackmail and extort. Now, so the fact that the New York Times is reporting about these hidden cameras, this is really important because people weren't talking about this. The question that we all should have been asking, should have been front page news for months now, is where are the videotapes? Where are the videotapes, right? So the fact that they're doing a story about that is encouraging to me because it means that maybe we might start to have a discourse about, okay, time to produce the videos. Okay, let's see. Oh, here's some more good news. People are protesting detention centers all over the United States. So DHS, ICE, all of these fools, they're trying to buy up warehouses in different like rural areas throughout the United States where they're planning to create these camps, right? These like concentration camps. And these people know that they're camps because these are warehouses that don't have plumbing, they don't have water, they don't have kitchens. They're not fit for human habitation, much less for hundreds of people. And so we just know just by that they're not intending to actually put people in facilities, right? They're intending to put them in like animal pens type situation. And so, but all these people are standing up. And so there's three main things that people are doing. And so if you're watching this and you live in a state where one of these camps is trying to get built, and they're building them mostly in, I think, red states. I have a list here. There's plans for lots of states, but so far people have been effective at stopping the creation of detention centers in numerous places, including Oklahoma, Utah, Minnesota, Virginia, and Kansas. I don't know. Iowa might be on that list. If your state's on that list, put it in the comments. And so how are they doing this? There's three ways. And so find out if there's one in your state so you can fight back. There's three ways to stop this. People are going to their city councils and they're staying there for hours. They're refusing to let their city council members leave until they pass legislation preventing these facilities from being built in their cities. They're also, someone said Pennsylvania too. Okay, they are also going to county board meetings. So go to your county board meeting, and they're doing the same thing. The people are demanding that these facilities not be built in their place, in their city or village or town or county. And then they're also pressuring the owners of these warehouses. So here's, people are giving me names in the comments, so I'm going to post them. New Jersey, something about Texas. All right. So if you live in one of these states, right here we go. Public pressure made a sale of land to DHS, and they didn't sell it in Utah. Yeah. So, yeah, someone said in Mississippi that the rep actually stopped it. Okay, Milwaukee, Orlando shut one down. We know that Miccosukee shut one down in the Big Cypress. Surprise, Arizona. Okay, pay attention, people. But you can also look this up. Go online and look this up. I don't have a link for it. I just found this out today. The third thing they're doing is they're going to these warehouse owners and they're telling them, look, you cannot sell your warehouse to these people who are going to build a camp. You will be responsible for these people's deaths, right? You cannot, do you really want your name? Do you really want this blood on your hands? And it's working. People are refusing to sell once they find out, because some of them don't know. Yeah, NIMBY, not in my backyard, right? If we all focus on our backyard, this person did 5 calls. So that might not be enough. But I mean, if you have mobility issues and you can't leave the house, okay, that may be enough for you. But go to the city council, okay? So like I've been going, I haven't been lately, but there was a period of time when I was going to city council where I live every week. It meets every week, and they have public comment where anyone can show up. And I was with a group of people, and we would go every week. Go to your city council. It's only a couple of hours out of your week to go there every week. New Hampshire. All right, pay attention, people. Make sure it's not happening in your town or city. If it happens in your town or city, you're partially responsible, right? We're all responsible for where we live. You're responsible for your local area. We can't be responsible for the whole country, right? But you are responsible for your backyard because you actually have a voice there, right? I can go to city council every week till the end of time because I live here and I have a right to do that because it's my city council, right? And so do you. So get someone to get you a ride. I walk to mine because I don't have a car. I walk there, get a ride, walk there, do what you got to do. So that's really good news, right? The power of the people. So we're talking about good news. If you just logged in, we're talking about good news that I found today. And I got a lot of bad news out here too, so I'm not going to read that. Oh, Ted Lieu. I gotta praise Ted Lieu. He's one of our reps. He's been very outspoken. He was talking about, he gave a speech, I think it was yesterday, making it very clear that when they tried to have Madam G testify to Congress and she took the fifth on everything, he didn't, walk around the issue or try to be, polite or circumspect. He came out to the press and he said, look, what's happening is she is offering head clown her silence in exchange for clemency. And he was just very straightforward about it. And so I think we are seeing a shift here, right? Because we do have a number of leaders now, of blue hat leaders and one red hat, which is Massie, who are coming out and speaking very boldly against the circus. Massie and Kana are speaking out about the redactions and the need to unredact and what they found in the unredacted files. They publicized 6 more names. They got a list of 20 names unredacted, right? Change is happening, right? It's not going fast enough for any of us, but yeah. And I just wanted to say this because a lot of people from the Mighty Minis have said that their information's being suppressed. And so if you're not seeing any footage or any news, it's not because that problem is no longer happening. It's just that censorship, right? So I also saw a report that they're using some type of technology to mess with their phones so that when people try to record what's happening on the streets in Mini, their footage is being wiped from their phone, or their phones aren't working. They're removing their access to Wi-Fi, etc. And so do not assume that a lack of footage or a lack of press coverage means that something isn't happening. And this just needs to be our rule going forward, right? Like we used to be able to count on a certain level of media coverage of things happening in our country, and we don't have that anymore. And I want to say this also for all of our sister countries who are coming into my community, commenting on my videos. There's all these people from Australia and UK and Canada and other places. And I just so appreciate having you all here. So first, I just want to thank you for being here. Sister Denmark is often in the comments. Just a lot of people from different countries. I just want to also make sure that you all understand that we don't have the press that you have. Like you guys are getting news about our country that we don't get. We got to laugh or we'll cry. I mean, as crazy as it is, this is the case. So what I do sometimes I am sometimes able to see like German news or news from other countries. And sometimes you can find it with English subtitles, and sometimes you have to find a way to translate it yourself if you don't know the language. But, there's a lot of technology out there now for that. Google Translate and whatnot. You can download the transcript off of a video on YouTube in another language, and then you could put it through a Google Translate, right? So, it's possible. All right, so here's some more good news we were talking about earlier, that, the king's brother is going to be investigated for treason, and they're saying criminal investigation. That's what I heard today in the press, foreign press, I think, was that there was that Charles has agreed to start a criminal investigation, right? Not just a censorship or taking away titles. All right, so let me see if there's any more good news in the comments that I didn't cover. So I wanted to start with that. I always like to talk about the good news because I haven't done my Metatron, not the news today. Because I did a different post. And I want to talk about that too. Oh yeah, this is not good news, but this is just things for people to know, that these cameras are being hacked into by these two, or they're cooperating with, I don't know, depends on which story you read, with these agencies. Oh, so this person, Kendra, is saying, get your refund for your camera. Turn it back in. I think that's a good idea. So thank you everyone for being here. We got 453 people, even though I was an hour and a I usually go live on Thursday. I decided to go live today, and then I didn't, and now I am. So thanks for being here, the people who are still here. Yeah, someone said that's why we need our old school cameras. We do. We need all the photographers on the street. Yeah, we do need to do a lot of analog stuff. Regular, old camcorders. Okay, so someone said they want me to. So I was going to talk about this. The terms of MID. It's getting a lot of attention in the comment sections. Okay. So let me talk about that. So for those who didn't see my earlier video this week, I did a video. What's my video about? The big picture of what's going on right now. And gosh, I've already forgotten that video. It's a couple videos ago. But the video was, sometimes I have to go back and look to see what I posted. I want to call it by the proper name. It's called, I got a lot of videos. Spirit Guide Predictions Coming to Pass. Okay. So in that video, I was referencing something I saw online, and some people were questioning, what's the source? I have been trying to find the source, but it was a quote from a representative talking about how the reason that there are so many redactions is because there are so many people implicated that once they are unredacted, it's going to bring down like the whole structure of the world. And I said that quote was in alignment with what my guides have been saying, right? Now, so I couldn't find the exact quote. I did post some other videos in the comment section where that same rep was saying some things that were similar to that, but not exactly that quote. And this is the problem with our current, problematic press situation, is that it's not always possible to vet stories the way I used to be able to, where I could just go and find the source really quickly because I'm a trained researcher. I'm a scholar. It's usually pretty easy for me to find stuff. But nowadays it's not, because you have to be a super sleuth. Like I have to go to lots of different alternative news sources that aren't even like newspapers, like Substack and YouTube videos and TikToks and ground news, and just like and foreign news from other countries, trying to find sources. So, but the gist of that video was, hey, this is what my guides said, and I feel like now we are starting to see evidence for this. Now, even though I couldn't find that exact quote in a video form or like a newspaper source, we also do have Blondie's quote, where she said quite a while ago, if we were to unredact the names of all of the perpetrators in the files, it would bring down the global power structure. She actually also said that. So that's what my guides said, right? They said, if you recall last week, that they said, and I've said this before, it's just that I got it more clearly again last week in this newer vision, that the global network of bad traffic is, directly linked to the global network of power that includes, corporations and world leaders and PDFs, right? And it's also, of course, connected to the finagling of the joust. Now, this is kind of something I've been saying for many months, but every once in a while, my guides bring it back up again with kind of a new twist. And so they brought it up this week with a new twist by saying, hey, we've got the overlords on the back foot. They're getting very nervous. And so we have to really pay attention to this bigger picture. It's easy just to say, well, all of these crimes were committed and nobody's in jail except this one woman, right? No men are in jail. One woman, and she's in a cush, federal thing trying to negotiate clemency, right? No one's been punished. But what instead we need to focus on is the fact that we are closer now than we have ever been to having accountability, because finally the truth is coming out. And you may recall that my guides talked about revelation, right? A few weeks ago, that this has to happen first, right? We have to have revelation. The truth has to come to light, and then change can come. What they were successful in doing for decades, really hundreds of years, but with regard to this particular ring of traffic, bad traffic, they were able to keep it secret for decades. None of it was coming to the surface. And now a lot of it's coming to the surface. In fact, every day, right? We're getting new names. We're getting new disgusting details. This is very, very good. And so what my guide said is that what the overlords, and that's just like one of my character terms, the overlords, the people who have the most power in the world, are really worried about is not as they're not they were yeah they were always worried about is finding out about the bad traffic rings, but now they're more concerned with us finding out about the structure of global power. And so that's why they're now in on the back foot, right? That expression means that you're in a defensive position, right? You're no longer in an assertive, aggressive position. You're in a defensive position, right? Trying to defend yourself because you are losing the fight. And so, because they're in that defensive position, they've now changed, right? They're like, okay, we can't keep the bad traffic out of the public eye. That's what they tried to do for decades. And they were successful for decades. And they were successful for most of this year, right? That's what HeadClown was really focused on, was making sure the files never, ever come out. Well, now some of them have. And lots of names have come out. And lots of sordid details have come out. And the general public is much more aware than we ever have been in the past of what really is going on, right? So now their concern is not so much the bad traffic. Their concern is that we don't find out what the nature of the global structure of power is, right? And this is good because that's going to come out too. But anytime you can get your opponent to keep backing up, right, and moving the goalposts and saying, okay, well, you can have that. I'm gonna, what's that expression? I'm gonna surrender that territory, but then I'm gonna protect this territory. That's where they're at, right? They have now surrendered the territory of the bad traffic exists, and they're also throwing out these dominoes, right? That's one of the things I said in one of my posts was, they're sacrificing certain people. So that's why certain names are being revealed, other names are not. So keep in mind that only half, it's probably less than half, but they're saying about half of the files have been released, and they are heavily redacted. So I got this really interesting little bit of math I wanted to share. And this was from Seth Abramson. I don't know if you follow him. He's a journalist. He said that 95% of all of the references to HeadClown have been redacted from the files. So what we're seeing now, which is, I think they said 38,000 mentions, that's 5% of the number of times that he's actually discussed, right? So they put a whole lot of energy. I call them the DOG, although it's kind of insult to dogs, or the Department of Injustice, right? They have put all of their energy and taxpayer money and man hours and woman hours into trying to remove evidence that he is the main character in this story, right? So they're talking about 1 million references. Now that some of the reps were able to go look at the unredacted files, what they're now reporting is that they did a search of those files and found, and they're not all unredacted. That's not really accurate. Unredacted, it's just they have fewer redactions. There are still lots of redactions, and that's what Massey and Khorana were also complaining about. Rokana, a little dyslexia there. Is that even the unredacted files they were allowed to look at still had redactions. And the redactions, it looks like, a lot of them primarily are covering up perpetrators, and especially HeadClown. And so they were able to do a search in this other set of files, and the search allowed them to determine that he was in these 3 million unreleased files a million times. Right. So this is really good, right? That we're getting that news, right? It's not easy, but we are getting more and more information. So I decided to share something this week that a lot of people were not too happy about. And so I'm going to discuss that, having to do with the terms of MID. And this is something I've been sitting on for a long time. Every time someone brought up, oh, we just have to get them out at the terms of MID, every time, intuitively, I got every time, nope, that's not it. That's not where we're going to have change. And I didn't want to say anything because I don't want to ruin people's hope. But the reason my guides instructed me to say something about, no, we are not going to have the terms of mid. That's not where we're going to have the blue wave and remove the circus. That's not how it's going to happen. And I think the reason they wanted me to finally say something is because there's a way in which some people are kind of sitting on their hands saying, well, I just have to make it till November, right? We just got to endure this till November. And then the blue wave's going to come. And then all of these people are going to be indicted and investigated and prosecuted. And we're going to reverse all of these authoritarian measures, right? And that's not the way my guides see it happening. Now, I could be wrong. And so there were a lot of people in the comments who were like, no, don't tell me that it's not going to happen. They're just like so counting on that. And so I will say what I often say, and that is that, I'm not 100% accurate, obviously. And I don't claim to be, never have claimed to be. What I often say to my students is that the very best psychics in the world are 80 to 90% accurate, the very, very best. Am I one of the very best? I don't know. But so sometimes I get things wrong. But I share things when I think it's going to be helpful for people to know what I'm seeing in the future. And here's the thing about the future. It's not set in stone, right? The future doesn't already exist. The future is what we make. And so we are headed in a certain direction. And when a person like me looks into the future, when a person like me, who's a precog, who looks into the future, what we're looking at is probabilities, right? We're looking at, if we continue on the route that we're currently on, we are most likely to end up at point A. We could end up at point B if some things change between now and then, right? So, but they have shown me again and again that lots of things are going to happen between now and November. Oh no, someone's coming over. I forgot I told them they could come over because where there's a big protest this weekend, and I usually anchor the medic tent, but I'm going to be out of town. So I have my medic assistant is going to come get all the equipment and take it to the protest. And then I have other medics are going to handle the medic tent this weekend. And so she's coming to it's not a she, they're coming to pick up the equipment. So that might interrupt my little live. I don't usually go live on Wednesdays. What are you going to do? So what they were telling me is, no, that's not how it's going to happen. That's not the track we're currently on. We're on a track. And so to give people a little bit of hope, so you don't freak out, the track that we're on is actually a more accelerated track than waiting till November. So for me, I don't see it as a bad thing. I mean, yeah, it's scary because, loss of democracy, but I don't see it that way. I see us, there being so much change between now and then that is no longer what we're counting on. Now, it's not just that. Because when they show me the global structure of power and they show me how everything is coming out into the sunlight, the obvious conclusion to that is that it cannot stay in place, right? So, and some people might not believe that. You might say, "Well, we've had it for this long. Maybe we can." I mean, I'm laughing not because it's funny, but just because, like I said, we have to laugh. We have to laugh or we'll cry. Yes, we've had a corrupt situation for a long time, but we haven't had a corrupt situation that was so out in the open like we do now. Like now we just have, remember I said that's the difference between the circus and previous administrations, is that everything is out in the open and everything is really extreme. So yes, in the past, we had administrations that engaged in illegal acts of war, but they did it covertly and they had a cover story and they followed legal routes, right? They got stuff appropriated and they went through governmental institutions. They followed they followed most of the rules. And now we have this circus that's like, we're not following any of the rules. We don't even believe in rules. And they're just coming out and saying these things. And now we're just finding out that, oh yeah, they're really all just PDFs, and they really all support SA, and they really all, don't believe in justice, and they really don't believe in separation of the branches of government, and they really don't believe in following what courts say. I mean, we're getting a level of exposure, a level of just revelation that we have never ever had. And what that means is that we, the people, can no longer act like we don't know, right? We can't say, well, I didn't know they were doing all. I didn't know they were trading guns for money in Nicaragua to sell to Iran, and this, we didn't know, right? Iran-Contra deal when I was younger, we didn't know, right? We know now, all right? We can't plead ignorance anymore. We know now, and so I gotta get my phone because I get this medic coming. Uh-oh. Let me see how I can do this while I'm on my live. We know now. And so that's going to change things. And so that's what my guides are showing me. They're showing me that so much truth is coming out. So much horror is coming out. So many people are waking up. So many people are becoming aware that the whole zeitgeist is shifting. And so, no, we're not going to just plod along and wait for our democratic institutions to do what they're supposed to do like we did in the past. That's not really the option anymore, right? We don't actually have secure jousts anymore. So let's just face reality. Not only was the last one not secure, but what my guide said was the last three were not. And the only reason that Head Clown lost his mind in 2020 was because he had successfully finagled 2016, and he was really shocked that they didn't succeed in 2020. And the only reason they didn't succeed in 2020 was because of the pandemic and the large number of mail-in tickets. And that's why they're now trying to eliminate mail-in tickets, because it's the only way they cannot finagle it is if they're all paper tickets that are mailed in. They can't control those. They can finagle digital tickets, right? And so if we're living in a country where we no longer have free and fair jousts, it's kind of foolish for us to say, well, just wait till the next joust. That's really not our reality anymore. And I know it's hard for a lot of us to accept that. And it's hard for me to say it. We don't want that to be true. It's hard to believe it's true. We don't want to believe it's true. We want to believe that we can, that we can somehow, no, but that's our reality. The reality right now is that we don't have that. So just like we don't have a separation of powers, just like we don't have, a representative body that represents the people that we chose that are now making laws based on the people, that we don't have that right now, right? We don't have that. And we got to face some facts. And why face the facts? Not because I want us to be sad or dejected or hopeless. No, the opposite. Because if we face these facts, then we can kind of shift our strategy, right? And then we can start to kind of focus more on what can we do? What can we do as the people, right? What can I do? How can I use my sovereignty to shift my country? We are the ultimate power brokers. It's just that we haven't had to be, right? We haven't had to be directly involved in everything, right? Because we had representatives in the past. We just had to choose them and maybe put pressure on them to do what we want them to do. But it's different now. Um, okay, let me just see if they can come later. All right, so let me look at some of these comments. Um, so yeah, so what I've seen, if you've been following me for a while, you may have seen my previous visions from my spirit guides that they kept showing the people rising up and the people um, making demands that the truth come out. And we are having that happen right now. The people are crowdsourcing their sleuthing skills and going through all these files and reporting on them much more quickly than our representatives are, right? We're actually doing a better job of analyzing them. Okay, let me look at your comments. And I wanted to also make sure I acknowledge people who sent me gifts, because I always yeah, a lot of women on the Hill are speaking out. Yeah, there's the Montana governor is one of them. Crockett is another one. There's a bunch of them, if you know their names. Is it Hutchinson? No. Okay, so this person said Little Johnson is losing control of the House. Special elections are going blue. Yeah, they're all going blue. And also, there's been like 30 resignations of red hats. And so this is what we have to pay attention to. Is we got to pay attention to the way things are changing. So it's not just that the country is ready to vote only blue hats in at the terms of mid. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's why, though, the circus is going to do everything they can to make sure that doesn't happen, right? So that's why they just passed the SAVE Act today, I think, right? To make it so that lots of people can't put tickets in. They also have a bill, I think it just went to the House today, to eliminate mail-in tickets. So they're trying to figure out all these different ways to get rid of jousts, right? Just to make sure that there's absolutely no way. And I think they're doing that because they don't necessarily have Starboy there to do the same thing, or maybe they can't get away with the same thing they did last time because we're onto them. And so they're trying to come up with new strategies, right? We have to come up with new strategies. And so this is what we have to recognize. Oh, someone's promoting, giving me gifts. Thank you. One of the things that we have to pay attention to is, yeah, things are happening really fast and they're shifting really quickly. So I'm trying to put up a different comment. So like, it's not just a matter of, oh, there's going to be more blue hats. We're actually having massive resignations of red hats, right? So it's not just that things are shifting blue, it's that a lot of red hats are basically deserting, right? They're not doing their job. They're not going to fight for our country. And so they're just going to like leave. They're just going to take the money and run. And so we're going to have a situation where there is a power vacuum, right? And so it's not going to be like in the past where we just had a transition from one government to another government because of a joust. Yes, it will. So here's a question from PA1125. Will it ever come out? I was told a long time ago that it is going to come out. I heard something recently that rang true to me. So some of you know I have different gifts that I use, and one of the gifts I use is claircognizance. And the way I use that gift is I sometimes will listen to other intuitives say things, and then I will tune in and feel whether or not it feels true or false. And so I heard another intuitive say, oh, that when the truth about the jousts comes out, we'll be dealing with other stuff that's so much bigger that it won't even be a major revelation. And that feels true to me. And that's why I say, don't worry about the terms of mid. We have much bigger things that are happening before the terms of mid. By the time November comes, that won't even be a factor anymore. And that's because things are changing so quickly. Okay, let me see. All right, I get the medic's going to come later. Yay! Yeah, there's the issue of Zorro Ranch. Yeah, it's probably there's going to be more and more crazy stuff coming out, right? So we're seeing this every day, and I'm not going to go into details. I never want to talk about triggering stuff, but I don't even try to read this stuff. But because I have to comb through different news sources regularly in order to do this work, I come across a lot of creators who quote from it or post sections from it. And so I have become privy to some really disgusting stuff. And every day there's more. This is how it's going to be from now until 2030. There's going to be revelation after revelation about corruption, about world power, about who exactly the people are and what exactly they've been doing. And this is going to cause people, in some cases, to lose their positions, to slink off into the shadows, to go into hiding, to become exiles. Some people actually will be prosecuted eventually. But, it's kind of like World War II, right? A lot of those schmotzies got away. They didn't all go to jail, right? Same with South Africa. They had truth and reconciliation hearings. And a lot of those people never did jail time. Same with Rwanda, right? They had truth and reconciliation hearings. And a lot of the perpetrators of G-side did not get punished. And so some will be punished, but others will just be revealed. And the revelation, while it's not the justice that we want, it is necessary for us to transition from our current situation to a much better situation where we're no longer allowing these type of overlords to control our governments, our economies, etc. It's a difficult way to transition, right? Of course, we all want it to be the easy way. Let's just choose different people, right? At the terms of mid, let's just choose new people. Let's just choose better people. It's gone beyond that point. It's no longer a blue-red thing. It's no longer there's a few bad apples thing. It's like the whole apple cart is rotten. So many apples are rotten that there are more rotten apples than good apples, right? I'm talking about people. So we got to throw out the whole cart, right? Okay, let me look at your questions. Okay, here's an example. Someone said their governor was, I guess, on the list and passed away before getting justice. This person says, "Oh, don't worry about the SAVE Act. It's not going to get through." So, thank you for that hopeful prediction. I was only bringing it up to point out what their agenda is, right? They're trying to do everything they can to make sure we never have another joust. And that reminds me of something my guides told me I wanted to share, as I've been thinking about this week. So back in 2016, I was very shocked by the outcome, because we all knew, just like we knew in 2024, that the other candidate had a lot more support, right? And we saw the crowds for HC, just like we saw the crowds for Lotus Queen, and the clown didn't have as many people, right? And yes, somehow supposedly won. What my guides told me, and I remember telling all my family, and they all believed me because I tend to be accurate. And then we were all shocked when didn't turn out that way, I said to people, what I have been told is that after Obama, that I was told we are never again going to elect a palm-colored male. That was it. That was the end of that pattern. And so when first head clown got in and then Biden got in and then head clown again, I was very confused because I was like, okay, that's not what I was told. And then it just occurred to me recently, and it's like, oh, because those weren't the people that were actually chosen, right? We actually chose the woman in 2016. And then, we weren't given any other choice in 2020, right? Besides palm-colored men. And then we were forced again, another palm-colored man was forced on us when we again chose the woman in 2024. And so that's not something that I foresaw, because here's the thing about predictions. It's hard sometimes to interpret them because we make certain logical assumptions, right? Like when I heard, oh, we're never going to choose another pale, palm-colored man to be the leader, I thought that meant, therefore, we would never have another one. It didn't occur to me that we might not choose that and still get that, right? Because that wasn't a part of our history. That wasn't a part of what we had experienced before, that regardless of who the people picked, other people would be put into place, right? And so that's the thing about predictions, is that sometimes we combine them with logic, and then logic doesn't really. Okay, here's a gift. Thank you, Dr. Domenico. Hi, Dr. Vesh. You continue to inspire me. Thank you. Did your guides give any type of Kamala Lotus update? I was getting from my guides positive images. Oh, I'm so glad you are, Dr. Domenico. I haven't gotten anything new, so I'll just tell you what I got in the past, which was, for a long time, I kept seeing Lotus Queen up on the dais. But the last time I saw her on the dais was a very disturbing scene that I did not share with anybody. And I just shared it recently. And that was, I saw her up on the dais with the House of White on fire behind her, and battle and small, not major, but small battles breaking out here and there. And so what she basically looked like was somebody who was taking up the cloak during a time of great internal conflict in our country. And I saw that scene, and that was like in, I think, February or something of last year. And then I stopped seeing her in that position altogether. And what I started to feel whenever I would try to ask about her, and then I just stopped, was that she had withdrawn her interest in that work because she didn't sign up for that. Basically, she signed up to be a peacetime leader. She didn't sign up to be a wartime leader. That's a very different job. She didn't sign up to try to rebuild the country after it was destroyed. And so I have felt since that time, for like the last year, a withdrawal of support from her. However, this last couple of weeks, when she reactivated her social media account, I felt a shift. I felt that she had some new kind of plans in the works. I haven't heard about what they are from my guides. I also haven't asked, but I'm going to ask pretty soon. But something has shifted. And what I felt when I kind of tuned into that was something has shifted with her, because things have really shifted on the global stage with regard to the timeline of the circus leaving. And so that's why that possibility, that probability of her being back in a position to take up a mantle of leadership is now much more probable, because the probability of them being removed from office is much greater. So that's what I'm feeling energetically. Let me see. Okay. Gen X has a question. Do you see this imploding before June? I don't have I don't have a date yet for this year. I do see people going to jail, yes. But I also see some people, like I said, escaping and going into exile, especially the really wealthy people. Um, I see something going down before November. That's the only timeline I can commit to right now, is that it happens before November. Enough major change happens before November that the terms of mid would be irrelevant. That's what I'm getting in terms of a timeline. I know that a lot of people are asking about February 17th. So I'm seeing some like astrologers talking about February 17th. So I don't have it. I'm not an astrologer and I don't have anything about that yet. Yeah, I agree with Debbie Quigley. Why won't the circus leave already? Um, oh, this person, Dr. Domenico, said they got executive orders being signed by her today. Oh, interesting. I like that. I am all for predictions that I want to see. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I was saying this from the beginning. I don't talk about it that much anymore because we've moved on to so many other things. But yeah. So what my guide said was there was finagling in 2016. There was an effort to finagle in 2020, and then there was finagling in 2024 with the help of Starboy. And so, no, this person was never actually chosen, not once. The amount of people that chose him was a small amount. Okay, just looking for questions. Oh, maybe I've am I gone too far back? I know a lot of people are just having conversations. How we're not all locked up because people are really powerful, right? So, some people have so much money and so much power that they can consistently evade being captured. There will always be people like that. And so because what my guide said is that the overlords are going to throw bones out. So certain people are going to be sacrificed. Certain powerful criminals are going to be revealed and they are going to suffer consequences, like Blondie, right? Patel, right? There's going to be certain people who pay the price for other people. And yeah, they deserve to, but of course they're not the only ones. And it's like, the analogy I got before was, like with drug dealers, like people are going to be sacrificed and then efforts are going to be made to get them to reveal the names of the people above them. And that's how we're going to get more and more people's identities revealed. And I mean, I really don't know at this point exactly how many and who and all of that. But I'm just talking about, what I have picked up. And of course I'm interpreting what I picked up. And that's where we make mistakes, right? Is that we think we know what does this mean? Oh, I got this vision. What does it mean? We try to interpret it and put it into language. And that's what we do. I did want to share, I feel like I wanted to share more. There are some things I haven't shared yet in my videos that from my spirit guides, and look at my notes about the overlords. That has to do with us. So let me go down to that because I haven't gotten to all of that yet. Okay, here's something. All right, so they were talking about underground networks. And one of the things they were talking about was the intelligence community. And so, like right now, we have a seriously corrupted intelligence community, but they said there are also a number of intelligence people who are kind of forming an underground. Um, some of them are retired, some of them are in other countries. Um, and so that's another kind of resistance movement that's growing. Um, there are people in the Pentagon. And then also they mentioned that there are certain wealthy merchants who don't want to go down with this ship. And so they're going to cooperate to help throw other people under the bus, right? And then they talked about how they also, in terms of underground, that they use that word a lot, underground. They said that some of us have to go underground. So some of the persistence has to be underground. It can't all be above ground. It can't all be people in the streets with signs and, fighting frozen water, right? That's one part of it. But that there also has to be, and there will be in the future, underground networks of people who are also helping us. And they mentioned, some of these intelligence agencies, they mentioned the Pentagon, they mentioned overseas, people overseas. And then they also just mentioned citizens. And so that made me feel really hopeful. And I haven't posted about this yet, so I'm just sharing it here. Talked about foreign nationals who are in civil service. And then they talked about PSYOPs. And I don't know if I mentioned this yet. I don't think I have, but they said that, we've been on the receiving end of PSYOPs, right, for a long time. And a PSYOP is a psychological operation to manipulate people. And that they said that actually the persistence has to start creating their own PSYOPs. And the purpose of these PSYOPs would be to make these criminals afraid, right? So like I think there's a hat like this, make racists afraid again, or make PDFs afraid again, or something. I forget what it is. Some of these catchy slogans. But basically, we need to optimize our ability to scare these people, the people that have power, for them to begin to be afraid of the power of the people. And so that was another thing that my guides suggested as a way for us to fight. And we're already doing it. And so I think that was part of the reason for them to say it, is that it's already happening and we just have to continue that work. So right now, the people are demanding answers, refusing to stop speaking about the files, refusing to stop investigating and analyzing, and right? People are refusing to stop going into the street and confronting the frozen water, even though people are being harmed. They want us to be afraid, but we need them to be afraid. And we kind of are winning that, right? We've kind of turned a corner where it used to be that we were afraid. And now it looks like they're more afraid of us. And that's the way it has to be. And it doesn't matter with PSYOPs. It doesn't matter how many weapons you have or war plans. It doesn't matter if you really ever intend to do anything to harm another person. It just matters that they're afraid you will, right? And so this gets to that whole peaceful protest question, right? Some people, like I'm an anti-war activist, right? I don't believe in war, right? And so I'm not someone who's ever going to be advocating, let's all arm ourselves and march, that's just not my thing. I'm not saying that's not acceptable for some people. That is, and who am I to say? I'm not sure that I have the answer on that. But there are some people, right, who have models of peaceful protests, and other people who have other models. I do also think that if we look at persistence movements throughout history, that's really instructive. And so one of the strategies of a lot of resistance movements in the past was boycotting. Another strategy was sabotage, right? protest, boycotting, and sabotage were kind of the three, boycotting and disinvestment together. So economic offensives. And then sabotage is where you kind of gum up the works of the authoritarian regime. So these are the three most effective strategies. And so I've talked about this in past videos that my guides, talked about these three strategies. But everyone's got their own approach, right? Everyone's, like my job is to provide information and encouragement and hope and vision for people, to help people raise their vibration and feel unified and hopeful and come up with ways to come together, right? That's my job. Other people have other jobs. But what they were saying is that this whole PSYOP, the People's PSYOP program, does not require arms. It just requires the threat or the fear of them, right? If people are afraid, right, that you're going to surround, the people are protesting and they're surrounding your warehouse, which you're trying to sell to a concentration camp company, right, agency, and the people surround your warehouse. If you're afraid that those people are going to burn down your warehouse and you're going to lose your asset, you might back down and say, I'm not going to sell, right? The people don't need to have torches, right? They don't actually need to have violent intent. There just needs to be that fear. And if the fear is there, the people win. So that's, I think, what they're talking about. And so we just have to think smart. We have to be clever, and we have to kind of use all of the possible resources. Now, one of the resources for people like me is energy. So that's another thing I want to talk about. So I think it's the last thing I want to talk about for this live before I'll maybe take some more questions. But one of the ways that we can fight injustice and criminality and horrific acts against children and women is with energy, right? But there's a lot of different ways to use energy. And one way to manipulate energy is with, energy work, right? If you're a healer, if you're an energy worker, we can all send energy. We can meditate, we can vision, we can visualize. That's energy work. But there are other ways to do energy work, like if you are a singer or a dancer or a poet or a public speaker, if you are a journalist like Aaron Parnas, right? I think he is shifting the energy with the work that he does. I am trying to shift the energy with the work I do. That's energy work that I'm doing. And I'm doing it through speech and videos and whatnot. There's lots of different ways to work energetically. And so this is another thing that I want people to think about. I think that sometimes we get caught up in dichotomous thinking, which doesn't help us. Where we're like, oh, either I'm out on the streets marching, or I'm a light worker and I'm at home meditating. And it's like, no. If you're a light worker, figure out how to use your energy in a maximally effective way, right? If you are a physical person, figure out how to use your physical body in the best way, right? If you are a speaker or a writer, how do you use your writing gift to shift things, right? Maybe you're writing letters to the editor every day. Maybe you're creating your own blog, right? Maybe you're becoming an independent journalist like Aaron. How are you using that gift to contribute to the persistence? How are you moving energy? If you're an energy worker, are you an artist? Can you make art, right? Protest songs, dancing, the frogs, right? All of those artistic and creative ways that people have found to persist have been incredibly powerful, right? Because when one person sees the creative work of another person and it inspires that person to do something, right? That's really powerful. So this is what we all have to figure out for ourselves. We each have something to contribute, and we each have our own unique way of contributing to the persistence. And there's no one way, and there's no hierarchy of ways that are better or worse than other ways. It's just about figuring out what's your way, right? What's the best way for you to contribute to the persistence? Um, and so I wanted to make sure they wanted me to make sure I mentioned that today. Um, so I'm going to have to meet up with my medic soon. So I'm just going to maybe take another question, and then I'm supposed to say, please buy me a coffee, and thank you to everyone who already has, and thank you to all my members. Thank you to my Patreon members. I just posted up another behind the scenes this week. And thank you to everyone who just shows up in this community. You don't have to donate or anything. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you commenting and listening. It's a great honor to have people listen to you. And I'm really grateful that people listen to me and have been listening to me this whole last 15 months. Um, um, so I appreciate that. I appreciate all of you being here because we're here for each other, right? I mean, I feel very inspired by your presence here and just seeing you all here. Like we have 600 people right now. Seeing you all here, reading your comments, seeing the way you discuss things with each other, um, having you tell me that I'm helping you. It's all very encouraging to me, and I think you encourage each other. And so I'm just very grateful for that. Um, and this is one of the things, I mean, just this one, maybe this last thing I'll bring up. Gratitude is such a powerful energy. Speaking of energy work, whenever my life starts to look a little shabby and I start getting a little frustrated with things, I always remind myself, okay, let me stop and do a gratitude list, right? And so I'll just walk around my apartment and I'll just speak aloud all the things I'm grateful for. And of course, when you're down and out about things that you're not happy about, it makes us forget all the things that we are grateful for, right? So it's like, oh, I'm not happy that my neighbor lately has been really loud, making all this noise, interfering with my peace, right? But then you know what I'm grateful for? I have an apartment and I get to live alone and I don't have to live with anyone. I'm really grateful for that. And I haven't always lived alone and I appreciate the solitude. I'm grateful that I have Wi-Fi so that I can go online. I'm grateful that I have electricity and that I have heat and that I have a computer and a phone and these devices that a lot of people don't have access to. And so just making that kind of list of all the things that you're grateful for. I'm grateful that I have food. I'm grateful that I get to eat the food I like to eat. I don't just have to eat. There have been times in my life when I just could only eat what I could afford, beans and rice or whatever. And now I get to eat food I actually like. I'm really grateful for that. And so just any chance you can, if you can stop and be grateful, we can't spend all of our time focusing on everything we're upset about that's happening in our country right now. We have to stop and say, you know what? Even though I'm not happy with all of these things, I'm grateful that Ro Khanna and Massey are working in a bipartisan way and they continue on a daily basis to do press conferences and to demand that names be unredacted and that information come out. I'm grateful for them. Yes, I'm not too happy with some of those other people up on the Hill, but I'm grateful for those two people. And I'm grateful for Crockett, and I'm grateful for Adam Schiff, and I'm grateful for Ted Lieu, and I'm grateful for my rep Garcia, and I'm grateful for AOC, and I'm grateful for Bernie Sanders, right? Like, spend some time each day being grateful for who we do have, even though we're not so happy with some of the other people. And if you want to put some people in the comments that you're grateful for, hey, I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful I live in California and my reps really are doing stuff. I'm grateful for my governor who is trying to keep us safe over here. And if you live in any of these states where they're fighting against the detention centers, be grateful that you live in those states. What were they again? Oklahoma, Utah, Minnesota, Virginia, Kansas. People are all fighting to keep those camps out. Be grateful if you have people in your state who are fighting. Yes, I feel less alone Your community helps me feel less alone, says Abby. I feel the same way, Abby Yandel. Um, yeah, I'm grateful to Minnesota. They're really fighting the good fight. It is a superpower. It is a force of energy to be grateful. It actually shifts the energy and it makes you more powerful, right? So if you want to be able to endure and persist every day, and yet we're being bombarded, right, with all this horrible, horrible news about these incredibly depraved acts by powerful men, we can't always be focused on that. We have to, whenever we can, okay, that's terrible, that's terrible, that's terrible. I'm not going to look away. I know it's happening. I'm going to keep the fight the fight. But at the same time, I'm going to be grateful for the people who are fighting, like that Montana senator. What's her name? Who's been speaking out on behalf of the survivors. I'm grateful for her. Because that reminds us of our power, right? If we are focused too much on how bad things are, that can make us feel powerless and overwhelmed by how all these powerful people were able to get away with so many terrible things without consequence. And so we have to go, right? We have to kind of adjust our attention, right? We need to pay attention to the crime so that we can fight them. But then we also pay attention to what we're grateful for. And we pay attention to the people who are fighting the good fight. We pay attention to our fellow citizens who we're grateful to, who are coming up with all these creative ways to persist, right? And then we got to pay attention to what we're doing and pat ourselves on the back, right? If you're engaged, if you're still engaged with our political situation, pat yourself on the back, because it's very hard to stay engaged with an apocalypse for 15 months, right? It's very hard. I have to pat myself on the back all the time because I'm like, okay, I'm still doing this work. It's really, really hard, but I'm still doing the work. So I'm going to pat myself on the back. And so all of you need to pat yourself on the back for whatever you're doing. Grateful for love. I am grateful for love. Love is more powerful than hate. I was so grateful to Bad Bunny for him saying that, right? He had that beautiful banner in his show. The only thing more powerful than hate is love. We got to remember that. We are more powerful. Love is more powerful. The people are more powerful. Unity is more powerful. Gratitude is more powerful, right? We got to remember these things. We got to remind ourselves, like consciously remind ourselves on a regular basis. And someone gave me a $9.99 gift, but I cannot find your name. So I just want to say thank you. And I'm sorry I'm not finding your name on here. Oh, there you are. No, that was a different one. I already thanked you. Anyway, whoever gave me these gifts, super chat gifts, I appreciate you. There you are. It's called a super sticker. Barbara Blendy, thank you for the super sticker. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm grateful for all the good people with a conscience and morals. I mean, there's a lot of us. It's the majority. That's something my guide showed me recently. We've reached the halfway point where half of the country is a part of the persistence, half. And then we got 1/4 that's totally still apathetic. They're just like, I don't care about politics. I'm not going to involve myself for different reasons, right? And then we have 1/4 that's just, loyal to the circus, or just so kind of attached to certain ways of thinking, like racism and misogyny, that they can't get out of it. Like they're kind of stuck in the sludge of their belief system. But we have already half, and that next quarter can still be woken up, right? We have at least another quarter of us that can still wake up. But we don't even need that, because half is enough. Half is way more than enough, right? You only need 3.5% to change a regime. We have way more than that, right? So I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. I'm gonna hop off because I gotta coordinate with this medic for the next big dance party. And so thanks for coming out. Sorry I was late. And so I'm probably not going to go live tomorrow because I'll be traveling to this powwow. But I will definitely be live again next Thursday. And so I'll definitely see you there. So thank you, everybody, for coming. And I will see you next time. Oh, I'm supposed to promote stuff. I always forget. I have a new course, Strategic Psychic. It's in my bio. You can take. And of course, my books. You can buy my books. Thank you, everybody. Oh, wait. Oh, I do have one more announcement. I always forget my announcements. I always forget to ask people to review my books. So if you've read Ethical Psychic and you want to give me a review, please go on to either Goodreads or Barnes & Noble or Amazon, wherever you bought it or wherever you like reviewing books, and give me a review of Ethical Psychic. Or same with Sovereign Wisdom. If you've read that and you want to review it, please review it. I need more reviews because when books have more reviews, then other people buy them because they're like, oh, all these people already read it and they liked it. So far, all my reviews are good, mostly good. I have really good reviews, but I don't have enough of them. So, but I always hear from people, like in my emails and my comments, people say, oh, I read your book. I loved your book. And I'm like, go review it. So please review my book if you've read it. And if you have read it, I really appreciate you buying it. Okay. So one last question. Okay. I think I already answered that one. Okay. I'll see you all next time. Be well.